So you're scrolling through YouTube, minding your own business, and then, oh, what's this? Another housing market video? I gotta check this one out. So you open it, and then you realize, yeah, it's still the same. Nothing's changed with the housing market. But these housing videos keep getting pushed further and further and further through YouTube. So we're gonna talk about why I think these are kind of pointless, why it's pointless to just talk about predictions with the housing market. First, let me get out of hell real quick. Let's see. I wish absolving myself of sins was as easy as that. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So when we see videos about the housing market, the main thing that gets kind of stirred up inside of us is this fear of missing out, this kind of FOMO thing. And it's this fear that we see something new, this new piece of information. And then maybe if we don't watch this, then we're going to miss this critical piece of information that other people know about. We're going to miss out on the secret. And that's just not true. It's what our mind wants to tell us, but it's not actually accurate. Now, YouTube is ranking a lot of these housing market videos, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's showing, that's what a lot of people want to watch, are videos on the housing market. But the main reason why these are ranking so well is because it draws attention. And the reason that it does is because whenever there's an emotional response created, that normally draws attention, that draws viewership and people watching things. That's why YouTube is kind of pushing a lot of this housing market crash, doomsday prepper type videos out there. Okay. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I want to talk about why this can kind of get us stuck in a place of inaction. So we also have to keep in mind, there are very real issues with the housing market. In no way am I trying to downplay what's going on here. And the two main issues that we're seeing here are super low inventory that are keeping prices increasing and increasing, and then also the potential for foreclosures. So we'll see, it's almost like the government's kind of propping up an impending foreclosure crisis by extending these moratoriums. So what we have to keep in mind is that predictions are just that. They are unknown. They're predictions. They're assumptions about the future based off of current information. And they're inherently not accurate, okay? They could come true, but they're just not entirely accurate. So what's ending up happening is people are making tons of decisions, and primarily they're actually making a decision to not make a decision or not make a plan because of what they're seeing in these types of videos. And that's where it becomes dangerous. So the problem is not just the market here. The big problem is the inaction that fear causes. All right, a lot of these videos are getting pushed out, which is perfectly fine for people to educate themselves about what's going on in the housing market. But often what ends up happening is it just creates inaction for people. And they say, oh, well, the housing market's probably going to crash or it's going to have a correction or whatever's going to happen. So I'm just going to wait until then. And then what ends up happening is they don't do anything. A good example of this is I know a guy who got into a land contract because he couldn't get a traditional mortgage over 9 years ago. And then he contacted me a couple months ago and still couldn't get a mortgage. He didn't do any work over that period of 9 years because it was always his assumption that in the future things will change. And the thing is that just doesn't happen. And things don't just automatically change in the future. We actually have to create a game plan based on where we're at right now. So predictions can't lead us into creating a good game plan. They can only tell us a little bit about what we might expect in the future, but they're not actually going to direct us into creating a plan that's going to get us where we want to go. So getting us where we want to go first is the realization of recognizing what's happening now versus what do we want to happen in the future. So these predictions can help us understand a little bit about what's going on now, but they can't actually help us craft the bridge that gets us from now into the future, right? What kind of savings plan are we creating? Where are we wanting to live? What's our job going to look like? What's our family circumstance going to look like? All of those things are part of your plan that predictions cannot help you with. And also, we're spending tons of energy on a simple question because we kind of complicate the housing market issue a little bit. We can dive into stats and economics and all of these theories and everything as long as we want to. But the ultimate question that homebuyers are facing is, do I buy now or do I buy later? And we're spending a ton of time kind of beating around that bush, beating around that question of should we buy now or should we buy later? And what we really want to do is we want to make sure we don't procrastinate for when the time is right. Because whether the answer for you is I'm ready to buy now or I'm ready to buy it in the future, if right now you're at the point where you're saying, actually, I'm just going to wait, I'm not going to do anything, then when the time actually is right if there is a crash or a correction, or there's an opportunity for you to purchase in the future, whether that's 1 month from now or 10 years from now, or whatever that looks like for you, if you don't set up the steps to prepare you for that, you're not going to be ready, right? So what might end up happening is you're watching these videos on a housing market crash and the assumption that there would be a crash here in the future sometime, and then saying, well, I'm just going to kind of sit back and wait. But if your credit's in the spot where you're not actually going to be ready to purchase at that point, or you don't have the money saved up, or whatever else that could be, then those opportunities could arise and you're not actually going to be ready for it. And then it's going to be the same cycle of saying, well, it's this other external thing's fault, when in reality it was actually I just didn't prepare adequately. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the harm. So it's perfectly fine to do research, but we have to make sure we watch the extent that we're doing research on. If we're just continuing to look at external factors going on, but never actually digging a little bit inside and saying, okay, these things are going on outside of me, but what's actually in my control? I can't control what's happening with the housing market, but what I can control is how I prepare with my money. Now, keep in mind, I completely understand how the pandemic is affecting so many people. We're having income losses and job losses and illnesses and deaths. So obviously, I'm not making light of that here, but there are things that we can directly control. Okay, and that's where we want to make that plan. And for some people, if you're facing that hardship, it's perfectly okay to put your plan on pause. All right, you don't always have to be moving forward if you don't have the ability to do so right now. Also, education isn't wrong. It's perfectly fine for you to watch information and learn about the economy and the market and what's going on, but is it actually actionable? And that's what we really want to do. We want to make sure that the time and energy that we're spending is on things that can lead us into progress. Otherwise, we're just going to get a lot of information and not do anything with it. And that's just going to lead to frustration. It's kind of this short-term thing. Our brain thinks that we're doing work by just learning instead of actually doing the work. And I'll talk about what that problem is called here in just a minute. So market videos aren't bad, right? I make some videos on the housing market myself, but when we get consumed without taking action, without doing anything about it, that's when it becomes the problem here. And then also keep in mind, the goal of this channel is from the perspective of a buyer. This is not like an economic channel. This is not an investing channel. So I'm not here to tell you about like what you should capitalize on with a foreclosure crisis and things like that. My goal is to help you as a home buyer. Okay, so what I really want you to do is understand that it's perfectly fine to learn about the housing market and to see all this, but don't sit and consume tons and tons and tons of information about it. Feel really emotionally agitated and then not be able to take action with it because all these videos are telling you to just sit back and do nothing and then everything's going to be okay. All right, because again, that opportunity can present itself and you might not be ready. So to me, the greatest harm that I keep seeing is that of creative avoidance. Creative avoidance is when we know what we actually have to do to solve a problem in our life, but instead of tackling that, we do something else that's adjacent, something else that's like a creative adjacent solution that we use as a way to kind of temporarily act like we're working on the problem itself. Perfect example of that is what's happening with this housing market, right? I might know that the actual problem I need to fix is maybe my credit is too low to ever purchase a home, right? Now or in the next 3 years, I know that I need to work on that. So if that's the case, creative avoidance is saying, well, if you just watch videos on the market, then that's actually you kind of working on the problem. And that's just not how it works. Our brain likes to do that because it's easy. Our brain's trying to, expend as little energy as possible, but it's not actually leading us to a solution here in the future. So what are we going to do instead? Okay, I'm not telling you that you need to go prep to buy a home. All right, that's not what I'm saying here. Okay, I know there's going to be people in the comments who are mad and saying all realtors and loan officers just want to push people into buying homes no matter what, and that's not the case. I actually think it's probably going to be a good idea for you to wait a little bit if you're not prepared to buy. What I am saying is you need to create an actionable plan. And that's going to look like so many different things for so many people. For some people, that's just going to be stopping excessive spending habits. For some people, that's just going to be resting and spending time with family amidst this pandemic. For some people, it's going to be paying off high interest debt. For some people, it's going to be creating an emergency fund or saving up for a down payment and closing costs. It's going to be talking to a lender or realtor. Your action plan looks like so many different things, but I can guarantee you what's not part of an action plan is just watching videos and not taking any action to bring yourself into a place where you know that you're going to attain the goal that you want for you and your family in the future. So base your plan on internal factors, not external. All right, external factors are things that exist outside of us. This pandemic, the market, everything that's going on, interest rates, housing prices, those are external. I can't control those. You can't control those. So when we spend our time and energy just trying to learn about it and try to pseudo control it, it doesn't do anything. The only thing that you can control is what's right in front of you. You can control your finances and how you spend your money and all of that. Okay. And also the breaks and the pauses that you take in there if you need those. Okay, so that's what I want you to focus on, is really taking, finding what you're consuming and actually creating an actionable plan with it. And just instead of just saying, well, I watched videos on the housing market, so, I'm set for the next however long because I have this much time to work on my credit, so I'll work on it then, or it will get better then. I'll have my savings then. It just simply will not work like that when the opportunity presents itself for you to purchase. Okay, so let's take a deep breath. I actually have a quick meditation on the housing market. Okay. If you've never done meditation, it's going to be pretty fun. All right. And if you have done meditations, it's going to be a little bit interesting for you because we're going to, basically bring some emotionality back into the home buying process. Okay. We're going to listen to not just this, but listen to the whole rest of what's going on in your body by paying attention to it. So if you text #calm_market, okay, not calm moment, calm market, to my phone number, which is 937-358-6542. I will send you an audio link that is going to walk you through just a quick guided meditation. You can just sit down for a couple minutes, take a moment, and then this is going to allow you to kind of debrief some of the housing market stress out of your life. Get a different perspective that might be a little bit more holistic and helps guide you to where you want to go. All right. So if you want to actually get started on this home buying journey of yours, I have a video that's going to walk you through how to find a realtor, how to find a loan officer, what to email, what to text them with templates and everything like that in this video right over here.